Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I apologize that we are running behind today. My name is Jasmine, in case you're just now tuning in. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Hi, Star Ruby. Hi, the Witch of Enchantment. Hey, Darlene. Thanks for joining. Hi, Seika Gadelica. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I'm a witchy content creator here on YouTube, and I love having other witches on my channel. In case you don't already know, I have a very special guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, Jasmine. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show as a guest. My name is Elaine, and I am with Elaine's Arcane Tarot and Astrology on Facebook. I also have a website, elainesarcanetarot.com, and I've been a reader for, oh gosh, like over 18 years now. Started doing paid readings whenever I was a teenager. So I've been fully online since the troubles started in 2020. And it's been a whole journey. So,
Tell us about that journey.
Well, I had been doing readings as sort of a side gig pretty much all of my adult life. I started with paid readings at a party that my dad was invited to way back whenever I was like 15 or 16 years old. My godmother started mentoring me in tarot much like earlier than that, whenever I was like 10 or 11, I think. But yeah, doing them for clients. I've been doing that for like 18 years now. I'm going to age myself there. But so I was doing it as a side gig while I was working full time through my adult life. And then the pandemic hit. And I lost my job at the factory because of the schools being shut down and everything. I was working at a medical parts factory full time. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was homeschooling my son, and I just gave it a whirl, and it took off. And I feel so blessed because that was always, my dream life, was helping people through tarot and astrology and psychic readings. And I'm just kind of going with the flow now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how has your experience as a reader changed from like being in person versus online? You mentioned that in 2020, I think, like you kind of
Well,
went more online.
well, more online, yes, because several of my readings were at before the pandemic, and I was no longer full-time employed at a 40-hour-a-week job. Most of my readings happened at parties, or if I was lucky, at a festival or something like that. And I also did online readings. I did readings over the phone ever since, cell phones became a thing, probably around 2008, 2009 or so. But yeah, my experience from in-person readings to online readings, it took a lot of confidence to really make that leap at first. It took a lot of experimentation. I was doing readings for friends and trying it out, especially trying it out with friends who were overseas to see if that connection could really span the distance. And I found that, yeah, it absolutely does. It's pretty reliable, whether it's in person or over webcam or over the phone. That connection is there if it's meant to be there with a client, that is. But of course, doing an in-person reading is an awesome experience because then you really get to, emotionally level with somebody. And I feel like those readings are a bit more intense and physically a bit more strenuous for me, though. So, either way is it's awesome to read for people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Night Endeavor says both of your eyes are so enchanting. That's so funny because I was telling Elaine before we went live, I was like, you always have beautiful eyes. Like, I really feel like a good reader, you can tell it in their eyes. Like, if they really can see shit, you can see it in their eyes. So,
Yes. Yes, I've noticed that whatever the color, people who read have very intense eyes. It is a thing. And thank you so much for the compliment, by the way, both of you. I really appreciate that.
So let's talk about some stereotypes, Elaine. What do you
Hmm.
think are some like common stereotypes of psychics or mystics or readers?
Um, well, the first stereotype that is understandable, but it's nevertheless a stereotype, is the stereotype of the hustler, the charlatan, the Barnum reader, you know, the the big fake image with the fake earrings, and you know, I can see that you are a very special person, you know, like you say those things that people want to hear and they're universal. And yeah, it's sad whenever I interact with clients who share stories with me about being worked or hustled by readers that they have tried to interact with in the past. And yeah, that one is yucky, and I try my best to avoid any of that kind of vibe of over promising and under delivering on my readings. That's the first stereotype. The second one is that we're completely disconnected from reality, which, okay, also maybe there's some truth to that, that I'm a bit out there, but because of what I do. But I also like to think my practice is practical. I try to keep things practical, because if it can't be used in day-to-day life, then really what's the point?
Right,
So
right.
that's just two stereotypes I can think of. And then, of course, there's the G word. I don't like that one. Yeah, I ask people not to use it. You know what I mean? Of course, I think
Of course.
I've
Yeah.
seen your dissertation on it, I believe, and you're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. It is not cool, so I try to
Yeah.
avoid. And
Yeah, no, that's a whole mess. And like I don't want this live to become about that, but for those of you who might be like new to this conversation, like hello, Romani people exist. Like I am one of them, right?
mhm,
And like sometimes this stereotype of this gypsy fortune teller
mhm,
is very harmful
yes,
because like we are an ethno group and like yes, I do read cards. It's maybe I'm like a little bit of the stereotype, but like not all Romani people like read cards. And like there's a whole lot to be said here. In the terms of like
exactly.
gypsy, it was said because like Europeans thought that we were Egyptian. Like
Right,
that's where it kind of came from.
right.
And so
And that's
same
completely
with
incorrect, because you're from,
completely.
yeah,
Yeah.
Europe,
And
European.
yeah. Yeah. And same with like, oh, you gypped me, like gypped me as in like
Yeah,
a gypsy ripped you off. And I think especially here in the Midwest and Elaine, like, you know, we're Midwest here. Like
yeah.
this culture is what it is. And like there are people who say things who I don't even think realize they're
No,
saying what they're saying.
yeah.
And
I
like,
found that it's often attached to our beloved Stevie Nicks, sadly. Um, the perhaps older generations who love Stevie Nicks, and that was the title of one of her famous hits, was Gypsy. And
well, and we also have Cher too, like gypsies, tramps, and
oh,
thieves.
right. Is Cher Romany, or no?
I don't think so. I
No.
hesitate to say because like the
Yeah.
internet will eat you alive,
Yeah.
right?
I thought
Um,
Cher was First Nations, but
I
I
thought
could be
so
wrong.
too, but she
Yeah.
has a song called Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves.
That's right.
But
Yes.
so yeah, so the ethno group is like essentially Hindus in northern India and Muslims in the Middle East are warring. A sect of Punjabis went west through the Middle East and then went
Mhm.
into Europe. The gypsy, which is a bit of an ethno group. You have your Romani, Senti, Dromai. They went into different directions. So the Roma specifically went to Eastern Europe,
Hmm.
and the Dumari went into North Africa, and the Senti went into Southern Europe, like Italy. But yeah, I know what you're talking about because that word gets used on fortune
Yeah,
tellers
yeah,
frequently, and it's an ethno group. It's not an occupation.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, and yeah, I often I know that people don't say it with any kind of malice or ill intention whatsoever. But yeah, the I am certainly not Romani at all. I'm just ordinary Irish American, Swedish American. I think, pretty sure. Never really got the full write up, but yeah, so definitely not. No claim to that culture whatsoever on my part. So
well,
I
and
get
I
it.
think a lot of Americans don't even realize that, like, Gypsy is an ethno group. I think most Americans think of it as like a spirit Halloween costume.
Yeah, and that's just, yeah, that's the sadness of cultural appropriation, isn't it? Definitely. Then that's often where it leads, is it completely gets lost and it becomes some kind of a spirit Halloween costume, you know.
The Witch of Enchantment is here. Thank you so much for joining. I love your channel, so thanks for joining.
Thank you, Witch of Enchantment. And yes, thank you, Jasmine, for discussing that. That's a very interesting topic for sure. Very.
Into the Void says Cher is Native American. So
Yes.
there you
That's
go.
what I had heard. Not certainly no expert on Cher, but
Yeah. So tell us more about your experiences as a reader.
okay. So whenever I was okay, so like my earliest childhood memories was just before kindergarten, and I remember going through my mom's stuff as little girls do, and I found her Rider Waite deck, and I became obsessed with it, and I kept pilfering it and looking through the cards, and I just loved it. So I got a little bit older. I got my allowance money together. You know, this is the 90s. I go to Border. I save up my money to buy a little mini Rider Waite deck. And to the outrage of most of the adults in my life. Um, and then fortunately, my godmother, she also read tarot. So she worked with me whenever I was very young, like that, before I had any guts to read for anyone else, you know. So I spent a lot of time just playing with them and testing things out and asking questions that I already knew the answer to, just to see, you know, how they all worked and how to shuffle. You know, I had little tiny hands, so I had to learn to shuffle. And so it was a lot of just experimenting and learning how to use my intuition through that modality as about a 10 or 11-year-old, I'd say, up until I was about 15-ish. And then my dad was invited to a Halloween kind of party, and he mentioned to his friends that, oh, my daughter, she loves all that stuff. And they said, oh, bring her over, we'll pay. And then that, you know, the rest is history. But that was my first experience with reading for people who weren't my little friends at school, you know. But yeah, so I'd say from the age of 11 until 15 was just a lot of practice and trying out my intuition and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about Rider Waite Smith? Because I feel like that particular card deck is a bit controversial. Like, I teach
Mm-hmm.
Rider Waite Smith classes at the shop.
Yeah.
I personally think that RWS like is a whole language.
Oh,
Like,
yes. Yes.
that I think is very beneficial for people to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so RWS was your first tarot deck?
Yes. Yes. The little mini
Okay.
deck. It was probably like $9 back in the 90s whenever I bought it. It was a teeny tiny little deck, and I needed it because I had teeny tiny little hands. And I was just learning how to shuffle cards and how to intuitively pull the cards and how to ask questions properly and all that stuff. So it was definitely Rider Waite Smith that I started out with, and To anyone who's learning tarot, I think I would recommend writer Waite Smith, because, as you said, it's a whole language. I love all the psychology behind it, but it's sort of like, if we use, I know the Ouija board is controversial, right? But if you think of a Ouija board, it's only got like 26 letters, alphabetic letters. It's got a couple phrases. It's got some numbers. But the tarot deck, as a means of communicating with spiritual energies, is like using a whole calligraphy. It's so much more elaborate. So, if that makes
Thank
sense.
Thank you so much, Red Cat, for the super chat. Blessings from me and I'll sit. I prefer the Thoth Tarot. Glad to catch you live. Thank you, Red Cat, for the super chat. I appreciate that. And I also love the Thoth Tarot too. I enjoy the Thoth Tarot. I think that for a lot of beginners, though, the Thoth can be very overwhelming because of its complex imagery. I think RWS, Rider Waite Smith, the thing that I like about it for beginner tarot readers or beginner readers in general is because you have 56 minor arcana and 22 major arcana. These 22 major arcana represent these 22 major life secrets, and the minor arcana are divided into two categories: the pips, as in like Three of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, Six of, Cups, whatever. And then your court cards or your royal arcana, like your Knight of Swords, your Queen of Pentacles, your King of Cups. The court cards represent the people. The minor arcana, like the pips, represent day-to-day life events. And the major arcana represent major spiritual life events. And I think that for someone learning the tarot, I teach RWS because to me, it is like a language. It's kind of like learning Spanish or Arabic or Latin or whatever. Like, it's a language that you learn. And you're not necessarily going to learn a new language overnight, per se. That's why I teach it in 6 weeks. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it takes every minute of that, too. It is certainly not something that can be just instantly picked up. There's no such thing. Of course, you have your own intuition, and people have different psychic gifts. They could be clairsentient, that's, psychic knowing, perhaps they're clairvoyant, psychic seeing, telepathic, whatever the case may be. They might have their own gift entirely separate from the divination, but I imagine that would get really confusing if you were just trying to freestyle it with tarot and just use your intuition.
Well, and see, I think personally, Elaine, that like the RWS gives us this arcane language that dates back to the 14th century of Italy in historical records. And there are kind of some conspiracy theories that it came from these fezzes of Morocco, or it was inspired by the cartomancy of the Romani and whatever. There's like different ideas of where tarot came from before. And prior to Rider Waite Smith, we had the Tarot de Marseille, which is essentially a tarot deck without the major arcana. So a playing card deck. So
right, like Tarot Kini and French tarot and so on.
And like, I think that learning a traditional language can only benefit you because your own gifts will supplement the language. And I think that your intuition is kind of like the glue that like kind of pieces everything together, in my opinion. Like, maybe you're doing like a spread and like the Three of Swords, the Queen of Cups, the Tower reversed, the High Priestess, the Hierophant, and the Six of Pentacles come out. Well, those all have meanings, especially if you read reversals, then it's double the meanings. But your intuition, I feel like, is kind of what pieces those together. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. As well as I prefer to frame my readings on a question by question basis. So one question, I try to make it as clear as possible. and then I draw as many cards as my intuition tells me to. Usually it's 2 or 3, for each question individually. And then, that's not a whole reading by any means, because a reading is several different questions. So, but my intuition is what I use to tell me how to blend the meanings of the cards. You get a combination, whether that's 2 cards, 3 cards, whatever, or you put them in order to see the progression of events. And it's the intuition that guides that, in combination, of course, with the knowledge of the tarot and what the definitions or the interpretations of the cards are, upright reversals.
Yeah.
So,
but I think it's beneficial nonetheless,
Yes, absolutely. Of course, there's a school of thought with tarot where there is nothing really mystic about it. It's simply a psychological tool. I've read some books that take that approach, the more psychological. So of course, it can still be, that's what I love about it. It can still be useful for self-development and getting a bigger picture perspective on one's life, even for those who don't have any faith in their intuition or they don't believe in that kind of stuff necessarily. It's so deep that it doesn't even have to be mystical. But
no, for sure. I agree. I think that's part of the beauty of tarot, is that to me, RWS is a foundation. So it's not everything. Like there's much more out there. And I personally really like to blend oracle with tarot, because I feel like it gives a different sort of flair. I do want to say the Rose of Night said, the Thoth Tarot is what my husband uses. He is in the Lima. Great deck. My preferences are different, but nevertheless, what you connect with matters. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Just to clarify, I'm not a diehard fan of the Rider-Waite tarot deck by any means, or completely loyal to that particular structure in and of itself. It's just that whenever somebody is learning the tarot, like for instance, my son, he's 12 years old, he's starting to get curious about this kind of stuff. I made sure he has a Rider-Waite deck just to learn from, just so that he can get familiar with the symbology and the traditional framework of the tarot. But what I recommend for every person is that they get out there and they do their own shopping. Forget that old wives' tale that you have to be gifted a tarot deck.
Yes, thank you.
Forget that. You need to pick your own. And if you've got the money to buy a Rider-Waite deck to learn with, and then one of your own that you connect with, like my first one, whenever I was like 13, whenever I really saved my allowance and bought myself a fancy one, it was the Arthurian Legend Tarot. That was my go-to.
I love Arthurian Legend.
Right, because I was a huge Marion Zimmer Bradley fan, and I was a huge Lamorte d'Arthur fan. So
I have Morgana Le Fay tattooed like on my arm.
Oh, beautiful. I love Morgane Le Fay. I love that archetype as well. So, what I tell people is get a tarot deck to learn with so that you're familiar with the structure. So whenever you read books, you know what they're talking about, so on and so forth. But pick one that resonates with you. Pick your own, because that's how you're going to learn it. That's how you're going to connect with it the most.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the whole, I don't even know where that came from. Like, you have to be gifted your first deck. Like, where did that come from? Because that's so not true.
I think it's gatekeeping, honestly. And I've been noticing in the ether on the internet, the TikToks and all that stuff.
WitchTok is so toxic. Like,
exactly.
Like I think
about how tarot's a closed tradition.
No, it's not. And I think that WitchTok has some good information, but there's so much crap. Like, you have to sift through that. In my opinion, it's not even like worth it. Like, I mostly like fuck around on WitchTok. Like, for those of you who follow me on TikTok, or for those of you who don't, my TikTok is in the down bar. My TikTok is primarily psychic vampirism, thirst traps, sad girl hours, alt girl shit, and the occasional WitchTok occasionally, but I don't really use that platform for that.
No.
I do more, honestly, psychic vampirism, thirst traps, and like, yeah, that's what I do on TikTok. Like, so
Yeah, I'm a millennial, so mostly for me it's cat videos and maybe some cooking videos. Not
Witch of
much of any
Enchantment,
interest.
the Witch of Enchantment says, I go to WitchTok to laugh. Yeah,
Right,
same.
right. I
Yeah.
saw
Well,
somebody
that's I
sent
think what
me
it's for.
exactly. Somebody sent me some witch talk video where apparently somebody was showing you how to welcome the good people into your home. Just beginner's
Oh, into your
guide.
home. Into your home.
Yeah, I forget who sent this TikTok to me, and I'm just, oh my goodness, no, 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 no. And then at the end, somebody thankfully came on and said, do not do that. Do not do this at all. And it's hilarious, witch talk. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw like LHP, like a left-hand path practitioner talking about like conjuring jinn and working with jinn. And it was supposed to be like a practical introduction to working
Mhm.
with the jinn or these spirits of smokeless fire. And never once in their TikTok did they actually mention that like jinn are like a classification of spirits.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
there's Marids and Huns and Johns and Afrits, and there's different types of jinn, like,
yeah, yeah.
and you
Just
work with them in different, like maybe you don't know, and that's okay, but maybe don't talk about what you don't know, you
right.
know?
Yeah. Don't try to make it super reductionist and something make it easy whenever you can't make it easy. It's something that requires at least a certain level of knowledge and skill and just not wise, you know?
But getting back to you,
Yeah.
so when you came online, so okay, like how about your family or your partner or your kid? Like, do you feel like you have to sometimes explain yourself, or like as a reader, as a witch, as a psychic, like,
Oh, are you still there, hon? Oops, I think I lost you, Jasmine. Welcome back.
okay, we're back. Did you hear me?
Yeah. I heard up to the end. Do I need to explain myself to my
Oh yeah, I was saying like for people who are outside of our world and our culture, like sometimes being like, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I read tarot. Or, oh, I'm a practicing witch. Or like in 2022, that can be controversial sometimes.
yes,
Like,
yes.
so let's talk about that.
I live in rural Indiana, and it's a very heavily Christian Protestant
You got to come to
evangelical.
Indy, babe. Come to Indy.
Yeah, I
Just
really
come to
do.
Indy.
Yes, and yeah, so there is a certain level of discretion that I try to maintain. And luckily, through the wonderful internet, I'm able to get clients from, more open-minded demographics than locally. And that's part of the reason why I try to stay online and over the phone primarily. I don't like that heat from the local Christian community because, conjuring spirits and all that stuff, as they say, they get very upset. And but so we all try to keep it very discreet. My son, my children they're very discreet about what mom does for the most part. But yeah, so my advertising is mostly online and outside of Southern Indiana. So that's that. But yeah, my partner, my husband, William, he's amazing. He's so supportive, completely understanding of all of my eccentricities. And he's very helpful in every way that he can be, especially whenever festival season comes
Oh,
around.
yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
do it without William. And my son, he's 12 this year, and he's getting very curious. For the longest time, it was just kind of, well, my mom's kind of weird. She reads picture cards to people. but now he's starting to understand what everything's about, and he's starting to uncover his own talents. I'm so excited for him. And yeah, so and my two stepchildren, my husband's children, they're very supportive and understanding. But I try to just bring it up around people who I know are going to be more open-minded about it.
And I think you can kind of like suss out like
Mhm.
who is safe.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
you come out to people in degrees.
Mhm.
Like
yes. Yeah. So, I try to avoid it in like the hairstylist chair, so on and so forth, you know what I mean? But yeah, my family has been so supportive. It's amazing. And of course, my community online, my online tribe, I'm so grateful for them. So grateful, of course, for connections like with you. It's amazing. So,
yeah. Lynn Smith says, "Oh my God, yeah, another Hoosier. We're both Hoosiers. I'm
yes.
technically a transplant, so I feel like I can't claim
Oh,
all of it, but like I've been here for like 14, 15 years. Like I'm long enough to where
yeah.
I feel like I'm a Hoosier too."
Oh, yeah. You're definitely a Hoosier now, for sure.
Witch of Enchantment says, "Yeah, you have to keep yourself safe physically and mentally."
Very good.
Okay, let's talk about
Yes.
that, Elaine. Like, how do you keep yourself physically and mentally safe when doing these readings? As a reader, I feel like there are times where if I do, 6, 7, 8 readings in a day, like I feel drained. And like I know that there are
Mhm.
things I'm supposed to do to,
Yes.
prevent that, like cleanse between each reading. And but like what do you do? Because like it can be a lot, and especially at festivals. Oh my God, festival work is a totally
Ooh,
different breed. I was
yes.
at the Hannah Paranormal Festival in Hannah Haunted Acres, and like I
Mhm.
would read for, gosh, like 16, 17 clients like in a
Yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
Like
And they
it's
just all run
draining.
together, and oh my gosh, yes, it is so draining, but it's a whole lot of fun. I love it. I live for it, and I think every time I do it that it's going to kill me. This last one, I worked 2 days in a row, 9 hours each day, and my table was just full the entire time. I was slammed. I know I didn't get everyone who tried to get a reading, but yeah, so that definitely takes some
A
meditation.
toll. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely takes some meditation and some spiritual preparation. And then afterwards, oh gosh, I got to have those spiritual cleansing baths. Angelica roots, one of my favorite go-tos for cleansing bath to just wash all the astral buildup off of the aura. I use spiritual cleansing baths at least a couple times a month, if not more, depending on how many readings I'm doing
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah.
'Cause,
The first thing I want to do after a festival is like a very thick salt bath. Like
yeah,
like I don't want
yes.
no one to talk to me. I want to like strip down and like take a
Ah,
bath
soak.
and maybe eat some hot wings in the
Uh-huh.
bathtub.
Yeah, yeah. Some serious self-indulgence because man, it just
Yeah.
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 Readings are always, to some degree or another, they're always kind of draining energetically. But
Psychedelica said, "Do you use any aftercare rituals for after a full day of reading?" I think we're kind of talking about that now.
yes, absolutely. I try to check in at my personal altar every day, offer incense, light candles, and before and after readings, honestly, just to ask the spirits to guide me, thank them for doing so after a long day.
Yeah.
And, I try to do the grounding and centering each day after my readings. Sometimes I just do that in a salt bath, like you do.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a very intuitive kind of ritual just to cleanse the energy field. And
Yeah, and I feel like when the spirits talk to you, they talk to you. Like, I
mhm,
feel like the mighty dead, the witches that have come before us, will tell you what you need to do. Like,
yes,
you know, um, when I'm at a festival, I can't really like smoke cleanse before every single
Mhm.
reading. Otherwise, that
Right,
would take time out of servicing clients. So I use
right.
sprays. I use like
Mhm,
sprays, um,
mhm,
like magical room sprays, and I use visualization, and I also use prayer. And like I know
mhm.
that prayer is like controversial amongst witches because
Absolutely.
people think of prayer in like a
As a
very Abrahamic sense.
Yes, yes, and it's not at all. I use prayer every day, several times a day, constantly talking to my spiritual team.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
I don't mean to
also,
be rude, but could we pause for just one moment?
yeah,
Coffee's just going right through me. I will be right
yeah,
back, okay?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll be right back.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Whew, that was a relief. Okay. Well, coffee is like my little pacifier in life. So, yeah, I overdid it before we chatted. So,
That's okay. That's totally fine. I love that Witch of Enchantment said, pray it out.
mhm.
That's so cute.
Pray it out.
So, when did we meet, Elaine? Like, officially?
Ooh.
I feel like we've been friends. Yes, Darlene, Mamacita. Yes, I will see you later. Oh, please, I will see you later, baby. So I feel like I've known you online for a
Hmm.
while.
Yes, I think we met at a gathering at the Spiritual Gardens sometime in the winter of 2020, I
Was
think.
it Spiritual Gardens or the Witch's Temple? Like,
I want to say Spiritual Gardens, but I'm not sure. It might have been the Witch's Temple. It was in Indianapolis, and I think I was a guest of a friend of yours, but we connected over Facebook soon after that. Um,
I
yeah,
thought maybe
through
you
the event.
came to like our witch's banquet or a full moon ritual or no?
I believe it was a full moon ritual. Yes,
Okay.
I
Okay.
remember a ritual in candles, and I think it was for a full moon.
I don't know, it was so long ago. Like that was in the before times.
Yes,
Like
yes.
that's what I call like pre-COVID. I would love to be able to do like another witches banquet for the community because I feel like that's what our community needs, especially since we haven't had our pagan pride. Though I do think that we're supposed to have a pagan pride this year, I believe.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, it'll be great to get back to some of those normalcies, won't it?
Yes.
For
Yes.
sure.
Redcap says, do you have spirit slash totem animals? Um, I'll start with this. So I think as someone who is not an indigenous person, I don't really identify with like spirit or totem animals, nor do I think it's necessarily appropriate.
Mhm.
I think you can have like animal familiars or animal guides even, but totem or spirit animals, I feel like I can't really speak to that as someone who's not native. But are there animals that I use in my practice on a spiritual level? Hell yeah, of course.
Mhm.
Like I love snakes, love snakes. Um, I actually have like these snake earrings on like right now. I don't know if you can see them very well, but I love serpent. I
Lovely.
love snake. I love what that represents.
Yeah.
And I also recently subscribed. Is it over here? Oh, it's over there. I also recently subscribed to this subscription service called Bonebox, which if you're here in America, it's about 20 or 25 bucks. And you get a skull and an oddity each month, which I'm going to make like a review video of this month's box because I just subscribed. But I got a beaver. I always want to say like baraculum, but it's baculum, like a beaver penis bone. And I got a rat skull. And I use bones in my witchcraft and in my necromancy frequently. What are your thoughts, Elaine? Like before I keep rambling.
Oh no, you're not. You took the words right out of my mouth. That I'm not. I do not have any Indigenous American background, so no, I don't have any relation to totem animals or spirit animals. And I also don't have familiars. I am a cat lady, so I definitely have a spiritual
You give me
connection.
cat energy. You give me cat energy.
Thank you. That's quite a compliment to me. I love my cat. So
I love cats too, and I wish I could have one. Unfortunately, my partner is allergic. So
yeah.
I'm like, can you get shots or something? I want a cat. Like I would love to have especially like a sphinx. Like a hairless cat.
So cute.
That's like my goals. We have here, I have a pug and a Pikachu. A Pikachu is a Pekingese Chihuahua mix. So she's 4 pounds of hellfire. Okay. The Rose of Night says, sis, give us that link for the bone box. That sounds amazing. Just Google bone box. You'll find it. It's like, yeah, like I said, like 20 or 25 bucks. I'm going to do like a full review video of this box. And I think that my review will be different than what some other people's reviews are because most people sharing the box are people who like are just interested in bones. And like I am too, but I'm also a witch. So when I get these bones, I'm thinking, okay, a raccoon baculum, a bear baculum, a beaver baculum, an alligator skull, a cat skull, whatever. Like, how can we use these in like some old school witchcraft? And like, if you're familiar with like the Picatrix, like animal parts are used in that grimoire a lot. And in Sahir, in Arabian conjure, like animal sacrifice or animal, let me be careful what I say here on this YouTube live. But I think that we can use bones in a sympathetic way to where we don't necessarily need to be actually making a sacrifice.
Absolutely. Found magic, my favorite kind.
Yeah. And my really good coven mate is our certified swamp witch. I have a really lovely like deer bone rib cage because every year we go on our coven's retreat, and in the woods near our cabin, they actually found an entire deer carcass that was tucked underneath a tree because sometimes animals will like find a good place to die. And so they found a rib cage, and coincidentally, each rib cage matched each coven member. Like we could hold it up to our side and it literally fit us. So,
wow.
Yeah. Redcap says, thank you for explaining that. Don't want to take away from the Indigenous. I'll be more careful with terms. Yeah. No, like Redcap, you're totally good. And you know, I feel like I've been like people have had to educate me myself because like if you don't know better, you can't do better, right?
Right.
And I think that as someone who's not an Indigenous person, you can still connect to animals. You can still have animal guides. You can still have familiars. But spirit animals or totem animals are kind of part of a practice that I personally can't speak on. That's all I'm saying. Yeah,
exactly. I completely agree with that. So same for me. I can't speak on it, but I definitely, I vibe with cats no matter where I'm at. It seems that the cats just They show up and demand a home. I'm up to 3 so far. So I'm sure that they help out a bit here. You know, I believe that cats are spiritual protectors.
Oh yeah.
I believe that they can, for one, I believe they can chase away the spirits of the dead if they don't mean well. A cat has such huge energy; it can do that. It can chase away unwanted spirits, at least to
Well,
an
and
extent.
I think
So,
animals can see things that we can't, you
oh,
know?
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Every time I get my cards out to do a reading for someone, and I try to get that connection going, if I have a cat in the house, here it comes to help. You know, so
Yeah.
it's great living with cats. I have a interesting black female cat. In Irish folklore, there's this myth about the Ketchi, which is a fairy cat, and it's a very large black cat that has a single white patch of fur on its chest. And apparently, you know, in Yeats literature and so on and so forth, different folklore from Ireland and some parts of Scotland as well. These cats will either roam around cemeteries, collecting the souls of the recently deceased. Thus, one of the reasons for the tradition of awake, watching, keeping vigil over a dead body for a certain amount of time after death from the Celtic Isles. And if not, the Ketchi likes to take up residence with witches and have
I
the
love
witches feed
that.
them and take care
I
of
love
them.
that.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually have a female black cat that is, oh, she's probably about a 17 pounder now. She's very big and she has one single white patch. And whenever she was born on my property, her mom was a stray and she just got, you know, she was just born underneath the shed and she comes out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have this cat, you know. Of course, I kept the litter except for one that a coworker of mine wanted. But yeah, so got her and her brother, and then another one since I moved here in 2019 showed up and had to move in. So I'm quite the cat lady.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Like I said, like I hope to have a cat soon. I'm working on it. We'll
and
see.
I hope you do as well. I hope you can
Yeah.
find a danderless cat.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
I live in Indy, so we have a big stray cat problem.
Oh yeah.
And so I may or may not leave some cat food out,
Mhm. Yeah.
like for the kitties. And so I kind of have cats,
Uh-huh.
but they're
Yeah.
not, they're like alley cats because I live in the
Right.
city. I'm a city girl.
Right.
Um, and yeah,
But
so well, this
still,
has been super awesome. Thank you
this
so
has
much
been.
for coming on and for chatting. And I would love to do like a part 2 if you would ever be down to just like talk about like witchy shit and being psychics and being readers and tarot and all of that. Psychedelica says, love cemetery cats. Any ideas of what one could do with bones found in nature? Can't really identify what part or animal it is. I personally would say connect with the spirit of the animal itself and identify what it is. Before you use anything, I think it's a good idea to know what you're using. So if you can't identify the animal part, I
Mhm.
personally would hesitate on using it.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah. If you're not sure, then it's probably not, no, because you don't know what kind of energies you're tapping into there, and that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's been great chatting with you. I really enjoyed coming on your live. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I
Thank
would
you for
love,
coming.
thank you. I would love to do a part-time sometime. That'd be
Maybe
fun.
like our next one, we could do like a witchy Wednesday night, like how we
Hmm.
had tonight, but maybe we could like pull some cards
Yeah,
together.
yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that. Definitely.
Yeah. So we'll have to talk off air. Maybe we could do
Yeah.
like like we'll pull cards about like the next moon cycle and like do a reading for like the collective together.
Yeah.
Or maybe take readings on air. I don't know. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. And thank you all so much for joining. Psychedelica, Robert Mann, The Witch of Enchantment, Redcap, Darlene, May Schreiber. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Let's see, who else? Lynn Smith. Into the Void, The Rose of the Night, Night Endeavor, Ewe, Star Ruby. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. And please check out Elaine's link. It will be in the description bar down below. She is a very accredited reader in my local area as well as online, so check her out. I know that you have this Facebook group and you also do online readings on live sometimes. So take advantage of that. Like, they're fun. I've tuned into a couple myself. So check that out, you guys. Any closing thoughts, Elaine, before we end this live?
Well, no, other than I've had a great time. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It was great to connect with you. And yeah, check me out on Facebook, Elaine's Arcane Tarot and Astrology. I do lives on Tuesday nights through my Facebook page. And yeah, I also got my webpage, elainesarcanetarot.com. So.
And Rose of the Night says, I love this chat. Thank you, Rose. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rose.
Yeah, hell yeah. So maybe you'll come back again. Yeah.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this live. So thank you all for joining. We're still going to be connected, Elaine, when I end the live, just so you know.
All right.
And for those of you watching the replay, in the comments down below, I want you to use the word tarot somewhere in your comment, because I like to like add these little keywords for people to like leave in the comment section. So that way I know that they watch the video. So use the word tarot somewhere in your comment. Happy full moon to you as well, Psychedelica. And yeah, we're gonna hop off of here. So blessed be, and I'll see you in hell.
Bye-bye. Have a good night, everybody.